international news media were very interested in what was going on in Georgia. I am on the text thread of the Georgia Black Republican Council, and I can't tell you how many opportunities were just thrown my way. Like, listen, international folks in Australia, China, the UK, everybody who was a media outlet internationally had eyes on Georgia trying to figure out what was on the mind of Georgia black voters. What were black men thinking about this? What was driving black men's decision to jump ship from the Democratic Party and vote for the GOP? Many for the first time in their lives. Everybody was interested in Georgia. And I thought that was interesting because if the international world is interested in what's going on in Georgia, they had their ears to the streets trying to figure it out, because they were like, listen, Georgia's a swing state. If there are this huge swath of black people who are overwhelmingly pushing back against Kamala Harris, there might be something to this. We need to pay attention to it. And so I was in a segment with, I can't even remember the news outlet. I mean, it was just so many of us, so many different people that I can't even name, who spoke out and wanted the world to know that we were not with her and that Trump was the better option for us. Not because we were just so in love with Trump's dirty draws, but because for once, black people were functioning in their freedom, not being emotionally caught up with all of the rhetoric about who he is and who he ain't, and him being orange and he bad and the felony this and the grab him by the listen, didn't nobody care about all that. We were like, can we just look at the policies? Can we just talk about the policies and compare the two? And overwhelmingly, his policies won us over where Kamala's fell flat. It just fell flat. So, what does this mean for the GOP, right? This shift, I would say, represents a very golden opportunity for Republicans, but it also comes with some responsibilities, because black Republicans in Georgia, they are already making moves. We're not just stopping and like, okay, well, we won and now we about to sit back. No, this is where the real work begins. They are already making moves to capitalize on these gains. A 3-point uptick is huge, right? So organizations like the Georgia Black Republican Council, they are leading the way in this effort, leading the charge with plans for more community outreach. There are even talks of lobbying efforts and even launching a podcast to engage black voters. I was like, okay, well, that's what we're talking about. Now, I didn't start my platform to necessarily engage black voters. I'm an American. I'm a patriot. I love this country. So whoever wants to listen to me, I don't care what ethnicity you are. The truth is the truth, and it don't really care about how your melanin presents itself in the world. However, if the GOP wants to sustain this momentum, they need to deliver on their promises. There are this legislation going around concerning affordable housing, criminal justice reform, and a few other initiatives that were important to this voting bloc, particularly education. Education is crucial. What this article that I was sharing with you guys is basically summarizing that empty rhetoric won't cut it anymore. Black voters are demanding results. Now, here's where I want to push back, because I understand what the article is trying to say is that, black people want results and we're not just going to talk about empty rhetoric. I am a Christian, right? If you haven't figured that out. And I do not necessarily believe that the GOP needs to go out of its way to do things or policies and push initiatives specifically for Black Americans. Why? Because if a policy is good for America, it's going to be good for Black people, period. White people and Black people outside a few key areas don't have some sort of special needs that need to be attended to unless you're in the race grievance crowd and you're all on the whole reparations train. If you're not on the reparations train, a good policy is just a good policy, and it's going to work for you if you know how to function in your freedom, right? When America wins, we win. The only caveat that I would give to that is when it comes to school choice, that is an initiative that, yes, it is going to be good for the country, but it's going to be especially good for Black folks. Why? Because the lack of school choice impacts minority communities more than anybody else because Democrats love keeping poor Black kids in failing schools. And for whatever reason, Black folks continue to vote for Democrats who are overwhelmingly against school choice, and they'll do so to the detriment to their own kid. Like, forget the fact that your kid needs an opportunity to be educated in a better school. You'll bypass the needs of your own children to support a policy that is telling you that you don't deserve no school choice. What they do is they lie to Black folks and say school choice is bad because it takes money out the school and gives it to rich white folks, when that's not true. First of all, if you're rich and you're white, you don't need school choice. Why? Because you got your own money and you're already sending your kid to the school of your choice. You are spending the money out of your own pocket, not from some government subsidy, to educate your child as you see fit. So the rhetoric behind school choice being for rich white people is stupid. If you just sit and think about it, be like, well, if you're rich and you're white, wouldn't you already be educating your children as you see fit? Like, I don't understand how school choice is going to benefit that. If anything, school choice benefits children who were like me, who were in an inner city school district that was horrible. And I had a desire to learn and wanted to learn, and I loved school, but because the school I was in was bad, taking me out of that school and put me in a completely different environment changed the game. So my mama was doing school choice before school choice was a thing. Basically, she just told the liberals in our school district, I'm taking her out. I dare you do something about it. And if you don't release her records, I'll come back there and get her myself. And then we're going to have more problems because then I'm going to get violent. And I know y'all don't want a Black woman getting violent up in here in the Bronx. That's basically how that went down. The other exception to this rule where I don't believe Blacks need something special for us is protecting 2A. Protecting 2A is good for America, but particularly the Second Amendment is good for us. Why? We're terrorized in our own neighborhoods by the people who look just like us. And having the ability to carry and bear arms and to use it judiciously to protect yourself is one of the best ways that you could put Taquayshawn in his place and you ain't gonna have no problems. Like, if everybody on the block know you got 4 ARs and some 9mm in the house, are they really gonna roll up on you? Right? Are they really willing to find out if fat meat is greasy? Probably not. But in the inner city, particularly like New York City and Chicago, there's a lot of gun violence there because you don't have an armed electorate. People are not allowed to do what should be instinctive and basic to them, which is to protect themselves. Yes, protect yourself from Taquayshawn, but be able to protect yourself from the government. That's just my personal opinion. I don't play when it comes to the Second Amendment. I got guns and a lot of them, and I'm not ashamed. And if you roll up on me, you will find out. I ain't never had no problems. So here's what I want to say about the GOP owes a debt of gratitude, right? They owe a debt of gratitude to Black men. And here's where I kind of just want to get real for a moment, because the state of Georgia, it owes Black men a big old thank you and the gratitude for the GOP's resurgence. Why? Because this wasn't just a political shift. It was a cultural one. It was a cultural one. And we have to acknowledge that. Why? Because for decades, Black men have been boxed into this single political narrative. But now they breaking free. They are exploring their options. They don't give a damn what anybody else cares about it. They're just like, forget what y'all talking about. I'm exploring the option that's best for me, and I am voting my values. And Black men, they are learning how, like what I always say, they are learning how to function in their freedom. And it's a good thing to see, because when Black men lead in this area, the women who love them overwhelmingly, they may push back at first, but eventually they're going to follow the lead, and they're either going to follow the lead or they're going to be out bad by themselves. Like, there's only two options here. It's real binary. But I would say this takes courage. It takes courage, especially in a culture that oftentimes wants to demonize men for thinking for themselves, and puts pressures on Black voters to stay loyal to one party. It takes an amount of courage for you to be like, you know what? No, I'm not doing this no more, because I'm not winning. My children are suffering because of this. I have to do something different. I would say that we have seen overwhelmingly, historically, and generationally, and this is not a condemnation, it is an explanation. We have had a lot of Black male cowardice. We just have. And for once, we're starting to see Black men disavow the coward nature of their predecessors, who didn't fight back, who didn't, just stand with courage and a little bit of bravery, and were willing to stand alone and not worry about what everybody else was thinking and what the group was doing. And they were willing to make the decision that was best for them. We're starting to see a resurgence of that. And I think it's a good thing. The being loyal to one party, particularly if for 60 years, the loyalty to that party hasn't gotten you anywhere. Black men are like, this don't even make sense no more. Why are we still doing this? Why are we still doing this? And I think overwhelmingly, Black men are such logical thinkers that they're like, okay, they keep telling me that white supremacy is the problem. They keep telling me that it's these rich white folks that's holding me back. Yet, when I look around my community, I don't see no rich white folks nowhere. All this white supremacy that's just looming over me. I mean, I'm having a hard time putting my finger on it. But what I do see in my immediate experience and in community, as I see a bunch of pimp preachers pimping Black dollars and siphoning out the Black community and into their own pockets. I see a whole lot of Black politicians making a whole lot of promises that they never keep, yet their net worth continues to increase in value. And I see a whole lot of Black civil rights workers who always want to cry about no justice, no peace with their fists in the air, but then they go out to the West Coast and they buy property behind big old pearly gates, and then we don't hear from them ever again. This is what I'm saying. I've heard a lot of Black men comment and note. They're like, we're just reading the room. So the narrative of being loyal to one party is no longer working, because Black men are saying that we're not really getting anything for our vote. So what I'm saying is we should celebrate this moment. We should celebrate this moment as a win for political diversity. And when I say political diversity, meaning when you go to a Georgia Black Republican Council meeting, it's a beautiful array of melanin, but we all don't think the same. We all have different backgrounds and different experiences. But it's political diversity because we welcome some differences in ideological thought, but we also understand and recognize that there's some basic fundamental truths that we must hold to as a community if we are to flourish. And one of those is the strength of the family, education, and economic independence. Those are the top three things that almost all conservatives, particularly Black ones, we all agree that you may have a difference of opinion on this thing and versus this thing over here. But when it comes to those three things, we agree. We agree. And so I'm all for the empowerment of Black men who want to think critically and who want to vote according to their convictions and not necessarily siding with the group. So at the end of the day, the question is, what does this mean for the future? I mean, you have this political landscape in Georgia now that perhaps is probably going to have nationwide implications. Things are starting to change. America spoke and was like, hell to the no, we don't want these Diddycrats. We don't want this. right? And black male voters, they are proving to be this powerful force, and their influence, it was felt in 2020, at least here in the midterms. Was that 2022? It was felt in the midterms. It was felt in 2020. It was felt in Georgia in the midterms, and their influence is only going to continue to grow as both parties vie for their support. But only one of those parties is willing to bend the knee and acquiesce to what they want. And that's the GOP, because the Democrats are too busy out here chasing behind sexual perversion and killing babies. That's what they out there doing. And black men are like, nah, we don't want that. We want this over here. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Standard of Truth podcast. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to check out the Standard Home and Living lifestyle store at standardhomeandliving.com. We've got everything from book studies, journals, and even podcast merch, so you can take a piece of this conversation with you wherever you go. And of course, be sure to follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok for more updates, behind the scenes, and daily insights. You can also stay connected at thestandardofTruthpodcast.com, where you'll find all the latest news and events, including live events coming to a town near you. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Until next time, keep standing firm in the truth. Grace and peace.